Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we will be discussing the dissertation, its purpose, significance and key steps to help you approach it effectively. If your proposal was the recipe and your synopsis was the rough sketch, then your dissertation is the complete dish you serve at the table. Before we begin, check out my earlier video on the differences between proposal, synopsis and dissertation. It will help you see the bigger picture. A dissertation is basically a full research project presented in detail. It's your research story, from your first idea to the final discoveries. For master students, it is usually about applying methods. For PhD students, it has to contribute something new to the knowledge. Think of it like building a house. Your proposal was the blueprint, but the dissertation is the fully built house with everything in place. Here is the full structure most universities follow. Each section has a specific role, like chapters in a book. Let's break it down one by one. First is title page. It is the cover of a book. It includes your dissertation title, your name, your program, your institution and a submission date. As you can see in the image, this is the template which can be used to write a title page. Keep the title descriptive. For example, instead of a story of plants, write the effect of urban pollution on mango tree leaf growth in Delhi. That way, anyone knows instantly what your study is about. Next is acknowledgement section. This section is your chance to express your gratitude. Thank your supervisors, professors, lab assistants, or even family and friends who supported you. Keep it polite and professional. Example, I sincerely thank my supervisors, Dr. XYZ, for constant guidance and my family for their encouragement. This is the common sentences which is given, which you can use or refer to write your acknowledgement sections. But there are something which you should do and which you shouldn't do. Firstly, we'll talk about what you should do. First of all, always write in the first person and professional language. Thank your professional contacts first. Include full names, titles, and roles of professional acknowledgement. Include personal or intangible supporters like friends or family or even pets. Mention funding bodies and what they funded. Appropriately anonymize or group research participants or non-individuals acknowledgements. What you shouldn't do. Don't use informal language or slang. Don't go over one page in length. Mention people who had only a peripheral or minor impact on your work. Next comes is abstract. Your abstract is like a movie trailer, short, engaging and complete in itself. Keep it within 250 to 300 words. Write it in the last because it summarizes your entire research, why you do it, how you did it, and what you found, and what why does it matter. Imagine a friend asks you, so what is your research about? Your answer is in 1 minute. Basically, that is your abstract. Next is table of contents. This section is like a map of your dissertation. It lists all chapters and sections with page, numbers. Right after it, you usually have a list of tables and figures so readers can quickly find your visuals. I'll show you a video where you will get to know in a word how do you put the table of contents. Obviously, you can modify it the way you want. Next comes is abbreviations or glossary. If your dissertation uses many abbreviations like CT, MRI, or ROI, list them here for clarity. The glossary is for specialized terms, so non-experts can follow it. For example, ROI. What does it mean? Region of interest. This section shows professionalism and help readers who aren't expert in this field. Next, we'll talk about introduction. Introduction sets the stage. Give background, state the problem clearly, outline your research questions, and explain why your work matters. For example, Millions of patients undergo CT scan each year, but achieving the right balance of image quality and radiation dose remains a challenge. The study explored the methods to optimize and balance. That way you engage the reader as well. Next comes is literature review. A literature review is where you summarize and critically analyze what past researchers have said about your subject. Don't just list papers one after the another. Instead, organize them by themes. For example, imagine you are researching how students perform in online learning. You could group studies into themes like students' engagement, technology access, and teaching methods. Then you point out what's missing. Maybe not many studies looked at rural students, or maybe most of only focused on short-term effects. That gap is what your dissertation will answer. Next is methodology. This section is usually very vast because it is like the recipe of your research. It answers the question, how exactly did you do your study? You start by describing your research design, for example, whether it is an experimental or survey-based case study or mixed methods approach. Then you explain your participants or data source. For instance, if you did a survey on university students, you should mention how many students took part, what age group they were, and how you selected them. This is called your sample size and sampling method. Next, you talk about the tools and instruments. If it is a survey, that means the questionnaire. If it is an experiment, it could be lab experiments, software, a test you used. After that, you describe the procedure step by step. Imagine someone wants to repeat your study exactly, then you should be able to follow your to cool description like a cooking recipe. For example, you might say step 1, sent out an online survey link through email. Step 2, collected response over 2 week period. Then step 3, what you did is like filtered out incomplete responses. Once data is collected, you explain an analysis method. If it is numbers, you might use tools like correlation, ANOVA, analysis, regression. If it is text-based interviews, you might use coding and thematic analysis. Finally, don't forget about ethical considerations like taking consent from participants, keeping data confidential, and getting approval from your ethics committee. The overall aim of the methodology is simple. Anyone reading should be able to replicate your study step by step. Next comes the results section. The results section is where you present the outcome of your research in clear and structured way. Think of it as the part where you show the evidence without yet giving your personal opinions. Start by presenting your data in the same order as your research questions or objectives. This keeps your results easy to follow. Use tables, graphs, and charts wherever possible because visual help readers and examiners quickly understand patterns and differences in your data. For example, a table might summarize participant demographics while a graph could highlight trends or comparison across groups. It is also important to organize results logically. You might divide them by themes, variables, or categories depending on your study. Each section should begin with the brief description and then be supported by the data. Remember, the key here is objectivity. At this stage, you do not explain why the results look this way. You only report what you found. The deeper meaning and interpretation come later in the discussion chapter. The results section should be written in a way that even someone who is not deeply familiar with their field can still follow along and see the main findings clearly. Next comes the discussion. The discussion section is where you go beyond the numbers and start making sense of your results. This is where you show your examiner what you really understand your study and why the field it belongs to. First, connect your findings back to your research questions and objectives. Did your study manage to answer the questions you set out at the beginning? For example, if your researcher asked whether online learning improves student performance, the discussion should directly address whether the results support or challenge that question. Next, compare your findings with what other researchers have discovered. Do your results support previous studies or do they show something different? For instance, maybe some more studies found the students perform better in the classrooms, but your results show that online learners did equally well. The contrast is something worth exploring. Then try to explain why your results turned out that way. Were there contextual factors, some characteristics or methods that might have influenced the outcomes? For example, maybe the students in your survey had better internet access than average, which could explain why online learning seemed effective in your study. You should also talk about the implications of your findings. What do they mean for researchers, policymakers, and practitioners in the real world? Using the same example, your findings might suggest that universities should invest more in digital infrastructure because it can genuinely support student learning. Finally, don't shy away from unexpected or contradictory results. Sometimes you will find something that doesn't match your predictions or past research. Instead of ignoring it, acknowledge it and provide possible explanations. This shows maturity and critical thinking of a researcher. Next is conclusion. It is your wrap up and final message to a reader. Here you bring everything together by summarizing the most important findings of your research in clear and simple language. Then explain the implications, why your study matters. For example, if your dissertation was about online learning, you might conclude that it can be just as effective as classroom teaching when supported with the right resources. You also need to acknowledge limitations. No study is perfect, and it's good academic practice to admit where your work had some constraints, like a small sample size or a limited time frame. Finally, suggest future research directions. What questions still remain unanswered? What could other researchers do to build on your work? The conclusion should leave the reader with a sense of closure, but also open the door for future explorations. Next is limitation. Every study has limitation and it is important to acknowledge them honestly. This doesn't weaken your research, it actually makes it more credible because you're showing awareness of the boundaries of your work. Limitation could be can include things like a small sample size, studying only one school, company or city, or collecting data in a short time frame that may not reflect long time patterns. For example, you might say the study was limited to one university or the result may not apply to all students everywhere. By pointing out these limitations, you are helping future researchers understand where your work stops and where there could begin. Next is references. So this section should give credit to all authors you cited. Follow your university's required format strictly. Double check because missing references can cause plagiarism issue. Next is appendices. Appendices area are for supporting material. For example, your survey questionnaire, consent forms, detailed tables or raw data. Label them properly and refer to them in your main text. Now few writing tips which you should keep in mind while writing your dissertation. Start early and plan your chapters. Don't try to do it in the last minute. Make sure your chapters flow like a story. Use visuals because charts and graphs are easier to understand than long paragraphs. Always proofread and ask peers for feedback. And finally, follow your university formatting rules carefully. Writing a dissertation is challenging but also a golden opportunity to contribute to knowledge. Take it one step at a time.
If you would like me to create chapter by chapter templates, let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share and hit the bell icon for more academic guidance. You got this. Bye.